In this movie, we're going to do a basic setup for beginning to draw in 3D inside of Animation Studio Pro. It's a huge time saver, especially when you start working with things like animated perspective. It's something you'll want to do. If you have access to the working files, let's go ahead and go to File, Import, Vector File, Adobe Illustrator File, and find your way over to the Working Files folder and choose Skyscraper Side, and we'll import that. This comes into the middle of our scene right here, and I'm going to immediately rename this to Skyscraper Side. It was .ai. I'll double click on this and we get our dialog box that pops up, but I'll name this right because we're going to have a left side. Now, working in 3D usually means you should go ahead and start creating a hierarchical, or that is a layered group layer type of thing going on in your layers palette for easy management. The real reason for that is that when you create items in different layers outside of a group and then drag that group or this layer, say, into another, strange things can happen. Things will reorient, and that's because the program's trying to resolve the differential math that's going on there. Big words. Let's create the groups right now. Our first group is going to be a full city group. In this one, I want to have an animated downtown city, and I'm just going to make it easy on myself by having a city, and then I'm also going to have another group, which will be a building. Once we're done creating this initial building, we can simply duplicate it and save ourselves a bunch of work. So I'm going to take the building group, drag it inside the city, and this skyscraper right, I'll highlight that and drag that inside the building itself. Let me change some colors right here so we can see a difference between the sides. I'm going to shift-click the windows because instead of white, I would actually like those to be a darker color, some kind of gray, like that. And then for this background color, let me click on it here. I want something lighter, like it's in the sun. And with this done, I'm going to go ahead with this layer selected and click the Duplicate Layer button. With that done, we get a duplicate layer. I'll accept the name so I can go ahead and double click on it. I could have changed it right there, but I want you to see what I'm doing right here. So I'll name this left. And now we have our left and right. I'm going to come down with my layer tool, select this layer, and before I do anything, I want to call your attention to the variation of numbers we have up here. We have position, X, Y, and Z. X is left to right, if you remember working with graphs in school. Y is up and down. And then the Z-axis is the one that comes right towards you out of the center of the screen. So I will go ahead and click this layer, drag it over here. We'll see I have some value over here. I want the X to remain the way it is, but I want to take this Y value to 0 so that these two objects line up identically. 0, click Enter, and now it's aligned. With my Shape Select tool, I'm going to click this background shape. It's actually highlighted. You can see the checkerboard. But I want this to be a dark blue instead, so that we get a dark side, like a shadow side, and then the sun side. With that done, we're going to begin working in 3D. The first thing to do that so you don't lose control of your scene is to go ahead and get a split view or over-under or the entire actual four-way, but I'm going to stick with the side-by-side view right here. To get a better idea of what's going on, this lavender box is what will render when we render this animation out, and we're in the camera view on the left side. On the right side, I want this to be our 3D view to help track what's going on in the scene. I'll come over to the workspace and click this little icon, which is for our orbit camera. Nothing changes until I click in the window. And then all of a sudden, I'm still clicking and dragging. We can see that we can actually kind of work around our scene. It's flat, there's nothing to it. But from the front view, we can see what's going on. This little strange icon, think of it like a human eye, where there's an eye looking towards the object. This is your actual camera and shows you where the camera is in space. Well, what I want to do is not to actually draw all four sides of the buildings. We're going to cheat because animation is always about cheating. I'm going to only use these two sides, but I'm going to turn them in 3D space. So over here with my layers tools, the way to rotate a layer is with this icon that looks like you're actually zooming, the rotate layer XY. With this highlighted, I'm going to come down, select my skyscraper right. Up here, we've got the X rotation, which is the left to right, and the Y rotation, which is the up and down. I want to rotate on this Y axis. I'm going to change this to 45 degrees. We see it look different here, and now we're getting some perspective because, well, there is perspective. For the skyscraper left, we'll come up here and instead we'll rotate this the opposite direction, so negative 45 degrees. With that done, now they're at an angle. I'm going to grab my Orbit camera tool again, and we can see what's going on here. I'll be able to join these two together or place them close together and look like we've got an actual building. But look what happens when I move around the scene right here. You'll notice as I turn this, it looks like we can see one wall through another. This is where we have to engage a very important function of working in 3D to make it work successfully, and that is come to the group layer right here, the building layer. I'll double click on that. We'll come to depth sort, and we'll say I want you to sort this layer by depth and by true distance. I'll click OK. What this does is tell the program that whatever is actually closer to the camera should appear ahead of everything else. When I rotate the scene now, we're still getting some kind of funny behaviors going on right here. So what I need to do is come up to this top level and make sure that is engaged there too. I'll double click on city, depth sort, sort by layer, true distance, OK. Now I'll click and move, and this is behaving the way it should.